All right, so hopefully everybody worked together and found the worksheet, a little bit different, but at the same time very similar to the introduction worksheet, and hopefully did okay with it. So we're going to move pretty quickly through this, but for number one, all they wanted you to do was just practice identifying genotypes if they were heterozygous or homozygous. And again, heterozygous means hybrid, homozygous means purebred. So all they wanted you to do is just write an HE for heterozygous and an HO for homozygous. And so if you did that, your worksheet should look something like this. And I'm actually going to go all the way through and fill in the first two sentences, which I'll stop right here. All right, so any of the genotypes that had two capitals or two lowercase letters, those were all homozygous. And then obviously any of the ones with one capital, one lowercase, those would have all been heterozygous. And so you can see my answers there, but it's pretty straightforward. Number two, they wanted you just looking at the genotypes to determine the phenotype. All right, and so if yellow is dominant to blue for body color, that means if you had two capital Y's, you'd get a yellow body color. Capital and lowercase, you'd get yellow. Two lowercase, you would have recessive and it would be blue. And then if you had square body shape like SpongeBob to a round body shape, two capital S's would be square, capital lowercase would be square, and two lowercase would be round. All right, let's go to number three. So here, now they give you the phenotype and they want you to list the genotypes. So if tall, a tall head for Patrick, is dominant, his short head is recessive. So if Patrick has a tall head, his genotype could be purebred dominant, two capital T's, or a hybrid. And if he has a short head, that means he has two lowercase t's. For body color, pink is the dominant to yellow. So pink body color would mean he'd have two capital P's, or capital and lowercase. Yellow would be two lowercase p's. All right, now let's look at some problems. So SpongeBob recently met Sponge Susie around pants at a dance. SpongeBob is heterozygous for his square shape, but Sponge Susie is round. And they want you to create a Punnett square and look at the possibilities if they had children. So if SpongeBob is heterozygous, that means he's a hybrid, so he has a capital S and a lowercase s. And if Susie is round, that's recessive. And this goes actually back up to question number 2. So if round is recessive, she'll have two lowercase s's. And so here's our cross. And if we were to list the possible genotypes and phenotypes for their kids, possibilities would be hybrid, which would be square, and purebred recessive, which would be round. And then filling in the chances. So we'd have 2 out of 4, or 50%, chance that they would be square, and 2 out of 4, 50% that the kids would be round. All right, and now let's look at number 4. Okay, so Patrick and Patty met at a dance. They are both heterozygous for their pink color. And again, looking back at question 3, pink is dominant over yellow. So if they're both heterozygous, that means they're both hybrids. And so they both have capital P, lowercase p. And if we make the cross, again, this looks familiar. All right, and so to list the possible genotypes and phenotypes of the kids, they'd actually have all 3. So they could be purebred dominant or hybrid, which would mean they'd have a pink color, or they'd be 2 purebred recessives, which means they could have yellow color. And then the probability would be 3 out of 4, 75% for pink, 1 out of 4, or 25% for yellow. All right, number 6. All right, Squidward. Everybody in his family has light blue skin, which is dominant for body color in his hometown. So his family brags that they're a purebred line. All right, but he recently married a girl who has light green skin, which is a recessive trait. So they want you to create a Punnett square, and what are the possibilities if they had kids. So if he is blue and they're a purebred line, that would mean that he has two capital, and we're going to use B's, two capital B's. And if she has light green skin, that's recessive, she will have two lowercase b's. So our cross will look something like this. Again, we've seen it now 5 or 6 times. Alright, purebred dominant and purebred recessive produces all hybrids, or all heterozygous. And so the possible genotypes and phenotypes for the kids, they would all be heterozygous and they would all be blue. Chances 100% and 0%. And then question D asks, would the kids still be considered purebreds? And no, they would not, because they both, or all the kids, now carry the mom's recessive light green allele. Alright? So they're no longer purebreds. Alright? Because they carry the mom's recessive allele for green skin. Okay? Moving on to number 7. Now they actually just want us to look at the kids. So we take one of Squidward's sons, who is heterozygous, we just learned, and he marries a girl that's also heterozygous. Alright, so again, it looks very familiar. Now we have two heterozygous, two hybrid plants crossing, which is going to produce all 3 genotypes and phenotypes. So the possibilities are purebred dominant and a hybrid, which would make blue skin, or purebred recessive, which would be green skin. And the probability is 75% for blue and 25% for green. Alright, last problem. This is the tricky one. So, Mr. Krabs. Let me just rewind a little bit, sorry. Mr. Krabs and his wife recently had little Krabby, but it was not a happy occasion. Mrs. Krabs has been upset since she first saw her new baby, who had short eyeballs. She claims that the hospital goofed and mixed up their baby with someone else's. Could be because Mr. Krabs is homozygous for his tall eyeballs, while his wife is heterozygous for her tall eyeballs. Some members of her family have short eyes, which is a recessive trait. So they want us to use a capital T for the dominant gene and a lowercase t for the recessive one. So if we go back and we say Mr. Krabs is homozygous for his tall eyeballs, that means he has 2 capital T's. And if she is heterozygous for her eyeballs, or hybrid, she has a capital and a lowercase. So if we set up the Punnett square, it'll look something like this. Alright? And so you see that we have the possible genotypes and the phenotypes of the kid, or the kids would be either 2 capital T's or capital and lowercase. So it would be purebred dominant or homozygous dominant, and then hybrid or heterozygous, which would produce tall eyes, or tall eyeballs. So, did the hospital make a mistake? Absolutely. Alright? There's no way, if these are the genotypes for Mr. Krabs and his wife, there's no way they would ever have an offspring or ever have a kid with short eyeballs. So they got a big lawsuit on their hands, and hopefully they get their real baby, and then they'll live in some mansion down in the ocean. Alright, because the child has to have a genotype of 2 lowercase t's in order to have short eyeballs. And that's impossible with Mr. Krabs and his wife, because in order for that to happen, he would have to carry that lowercase t. Alright, but he doesn't, so they're in trouble. Alright, hopefully after today you have a fairly good understanding of Punnett squares. And it's not the Punnett square that's always the hardest, it's identifying the genotypes of the parents. So, what you're going to do tonight now is you're going to get one last SpongeBob worksheet. Alright, and it says quiz on it, but it's not a quiz. It's just another practice worksheet. And these 2 SpongeBob sheets will go together, but it will be for homework. If you have time left in class right now, you can work on it in class. If not, it is for homework, and I will be checking it tomorrow. I know I said it before, but both of the videos that you heard today and you watched today are on my science page. So if you need any review tonight, helping you for your homework, they're on my science page. All right? Good luck.